So we saw till verse 9. Last week, verse 9. Pitaro Vasavasadhya Ashvino Maruto Manahu Vayurvasnif Praja Prana Ritukarta Prabhakaraha. Verse 10 Ritukarta Prabhakaraha. So I think we were just short of finishing that verse. There were about 2 namas, I think, that remained. Vannaye Patto is Agni. Agnipati nama pesi, we said how he is in the form of Agni, Surya during the day, and he transfers his energy to Agni during the night so that Agni can take over. Right? And Agni is the Agni becomes the source of light and heat during night. That which Surya is during the day, Agni is during the night. Anala namak generally, even in Tantra, when they use the 3 forms of the celestial forms, Surya, Chandra, Agni. Surya, Chandra, Agni usually used as the 3 celestial deities that operate within us. And you try to invoke these 3 celestial elements. Because Agni is an important element. Surya, the light of the sun is reflected through the moon, but the heat of the sun is actually in Agni. So it's Surya, Chandra, Agni. The moon is generally what you consider in most of the, even in Vedic rituals, even in Tantra, forms of Tantra, where you're trying to invoke these deities, and the mono deities invoke Pranava. So Prajaha, Prajarupa Ye Namaha, Prajarupa Ye Namaha. So all the forms, all the beings are Surya's form. Prana, Prana Ye Namaha, Prana Apana Vyana Udana Samana. அப்படின்னு 5 பிராணா இருக்குல்லையா நமக்குள்ள, the vital airs, பிராணவாயு அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவா. All these 5 pranavayus are essentially the form of Surya Bhagavan. Now these 5 pranas are operating, and in the Pancha pranas are important. These are called physiological functions. They control the physiological functions in our body. Prana is the respiratory function. Apana is the excretion function. Vyana is the assimilation, circulation. Samana is the assimilation. And Udana is the expulsion. So these are 5 physiological functions that are controlled by the 5 Vayu, Panchavayu. So in the Panchavayu, in fact, most of the pranayama that we do, we are actually trying to regulate these Panchavayu. Pranayama, whenever we say prana, it means these 5. Prana by itself also means the whole respiratory function. Prana also means the essential life force, which is in this form of this air. Prana also means the Pancha Prana Vayu. Prana, Apana, Vyana, Udana, Samana. So he is the form of that, or essentially it is because of Surya Bhagavan, these Pancha Pranas are operating, and hence life forms, Prajaha, are able to sustain. How does the Prajaha sustain? Because through the Pancha Prana Vayu, of these Vayus, because of that, all the life forms are able to sustain. Ritukarta, Ritukartre Namaha. He is in the form of the seasons. Seasons na cyclical time. Ritu abdin chonnale, usually it means you're referring to seasons and also the cycle of time. There are 6 seasons, correct? Summer, winter, rain, spring, autumn, and there's a 6th one. I don't remember. But yeah, there are 6 seasons சொல்லுவா இல்லையா? Grishma Ritu, Sanskrit, I don't remember the terms exactly, but 6 seasons இருக்கு. So essentially each, and there were times apparently in the past where these seasons were very clearly distinct. இப்போ தெரியறது இல்ல அவ்வளவா. We are not able to very distinctly see that. There are some places on earth where you can actually experience seasons very distinctly, but then most urban places and all, it's very hard now because of too much of change that's happened. It's difficult to distinctly see that. இப்போ இதுலலாம் நீங்க நார்த் ஈஸ்ட் இதுல யூஎஸ்ல எல்லாம் போனா you will see, for instance, ஸ்ப்ரிங் ஆட்டம்லாம் ரொம்ப கிளியரா தெரியும், right? Autumn festival ரொம்ப அழகா you will see how the leaves start changing color and falling off. Springla you will see how that change happens from winter to summer. So all of these seasonal changes you can see. So essentially what it means is all these seasonal changes, or all the changes that occur in a cyclical fashion on earth, is attributed to Surya Bhagavan. It is because of him. Because Surya Bhagavan is operating the way he is, because the way the earth moves around the sun is anchored to the sun, these changes happen, right? And in fact, Ritu also indicates, just extending it, Ritu also indicates a cyclical nature of things that happen within us. If you notice our lives, there are many cycles that are there. There's a day cycle, right? Morning to evening. It repeats the next day, right? Morning, we do our things of the day, and then we have an evening, we go off to sleep, and then next day morning we again get up. So the sleeping, getting up, doing things during the day, it is cyclical in nature. Then there are weekly cycles. Then there are monthly cycles. Women know of the monthly cycle. Every month there are 3 days women go through the cycle. Then there are annual cycles. Every year ஒண்ணுமே இல்லனாவது birthday கொண்டாடுவோம். You will remember our birthdays. And நேத்திக்கு எனக்கு அப்பா ஃபோன் பண்ணாரு. திடீர்னு அப்பா ஃபோன் பண்ணிட்டு ஜெனரலா பேசிட்டு இருந்தோம். அப்பா இஸ் கெட்டிங் பெட்டர் நவ். ஸோ எஸ்டர்டே பேசிட்டு இருந்துச்சு, அவன் தங்க ஃபோன் பண்ணாரா, இன்னைக்கு ஃபாதர்ஸ் டே ஆமே அப்படின்னா. அப்படியாப்பா தெரியல. ஐ செட் கவிதா டோல்ட் மீ இட்ஸ் சண்டே. இல்ல அவ ஃபோன் பண்ணா இன்னைக்கு ஃபாதர்ஸ் டே அப்படி 2-3 தடவை சொன்னார் அப்படின்னு. சரிப்பா ஹாப்பி ஃபாதர்ஸ் டே அப்படின்னு. இப்பெல்லாம் இது மாதிரி டேஸ் எல்லாம் நிறைய கன்ஃபியூஸ் ஆகுது பயங்கரமா. என் பொண்ணு திடீர்னு நாளைக்கு திட்டுவா, அப்பா இன்னைக்கு ஹாப்பி டாட்டர்ஸ் டே சொல்லவே இல்லை நீ எனக்கு. ஐயோ எனக்கு தெரியலையே. So there are so many days that have been created.
Father's Day, Mother's Day, Friends Day.
ஆமா, எக்கச்சக்கமா இருந்திருக்கு போலாம். So it's interesting. We are identifying desperate days to celebrate, right? We have to remind ourselves to celebrate these relationships, these thingsங்கிற மாதிரி இருக்கப்போ
இதுல போயிட்டு முக்கியமானதெல்லாம் விட்டோம். ஹனுமன் ஜெயந்தி, நரசிம்ம ஜெயந்தி விட்டுறோம், ஸ்ரீராமநவமி விட்டுறோம். இந்த மாதிரி இந்த இதெல்லாம் தான் ஆக்சுவலா அந்த ஈவெண்ட்ஸ். இன்ஃபேக்ட் பாத்தீங்கன்னா நான் கேலண்டரை பார்த்தா தினமும் ஒண்ணு இருக்கும். ஆமா. அப்புறம் அதே மாதிரி கோயில்
யோகா டே.
ஆமா, இன்டர்நேஷனல் யோகா டே வேற வருது இப்போ. கரெக்ட். ஆமா இருக்கும். Definitely there'll be something or the other that will be there. So in our tradition we've always had days to celebrate, pray, come together as a family. The mari nariya namak occasions irukku. So what I'm trying to say is these we will notice that we do it in a cyclical fashion. There are annual cycles. Then there are cycles. There are said that calendar repeats itself once in 11 years. அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவா. The calendar repeats itself. அதுக்கப்புறம் 12 yearsல we go through some repetitive changes within our whole physical. கும்பமேளா. Exactly, absolutely. கும்பமேளா
12 years once போகும் அப்படிங்க.
எந்த பூ?
குறிஞ்சி பூ.
குறிஞ்சி பூ. அதே மாதிரி கும்பாபிஷேகம், கோவில்ல கும்பாபிஷேகம் 12 வருஷத்துக்கு ஒரு தடவை பண்ணுவா.
மகாமகம் வரும்.
Mahamaham, correct. So all of these happen in a cycle of 12 years because and most of these things that you see are impact your spiritual well-being. Every 12 years you'll get an opportunity for spiritual upliftment and growth. So 12 that way is important from a spiritual standpoint. So these cycles are important. Now what is important is we are trying to, the whole idea of liberation, Vedanta, that what we are learning is to break the cycle. Correct? The whole process that we say is breaking the largest cycle, which is life and death. That's the biggest cycle. All of these small cycles, we realize we are stuck in these small cycles. We are helplessly stuck. And the biggest cycle we are stuck in is being born, dying, born, dying, born, dying. That's the largest cycle. So the whole effort of liberation or Tattva Jnanam or Brahma Vidya or whatever that we're learning, the inner science that we're learning is so that we release ourselves from the trappings of these cycles. And we ride the cycle. We are not ridden by the cycle. We don't get overly controlled or overly impacted by the cycle, but we make use of these cycles. Right? So the more we do sadhana, the more we go inwards, we will realize that when the next cycle, whatever the solar cycle or any kind of cycle repeats, time cycle repeats, ritu repeats, we can make use of it for our own benefit, for our own upliftment. Right? So this is important, and that is what we learn through the practice of whatever spiritual practices, spiritual sadhana, spiritual literature, spiritual upanyasams that we hear, and all that is essentially to ride the cycle and break the trappings of the cycle. Right? So Ritu Karta. So who is the Karta of this Ritu of the season? Surya Bhagavan. So our Kalle Sharanarajan now. So just go fall at his feet and surrender and say that help me break this cycle. And the largest cycle, which is beyond my control, is Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam. May I break out of that cycle. Prabhakaraha. Om Prabhakaraya Namaha. So he is, Prabhakara means he is lustrous of his own accord. There is no, there is nothing. Swayam Jyotihi. Swayam Jyotihi. Jyotisham api Jyotihi. He is the light of all lights. He is Swayam Jyotihi. He is self-effulgent, and which is the nature of who we are. Whatever we talk about, the Atma or that which is consciousness which is within us, it is self-effulgent. Nobody needs to come and tell us that I am. Nobody has to tell me that I am. Even in a dark room, even when my senses are not working, I can recognize the presence of my own self, the awareness of my own self. I am. Presence is always there. Right? So at any instance, you see, even if you are in the thick of work in the office, or if you are in the heights of boredom while we are alone, whether we are in the most busiest of situations or we are in the most loneliest of conditions, for a moment you close your eyes and you look at yourself and you say, I am. And that is always there. Correct? That is always there. Swayam Jyotihi. And that, what the teachers, masters, realized beings, the scriptures, all of that are telling us that is what we are. So we have to recognize that Prabhakaraha nature of ourselves. So when we say Prabhakara, Yanamaha, we are not telling, oh Surya Bhagavan, you are Prabhakara. We are telling ourselves, I am that Prabhakara. Right? Whatever is the condition doesn't matter. Everything else is a packaging on top of that essence, which is I am. So that is Prabhakaraya Namaha. 10th shloka. Aditya savita suryah khagah pusha gabhastiman suvarna sadrisho bhanuh hiranyareta divakarah. Aditya savita suryah khagah pusha gabhastiman suvarna sadrisho bhanuh hiranyareta divakarah. So here he is talking about various again various influences of Surya Bhagavan and also the activities that Surya Bhagavan does. So as Aditya, he is the one who is giving the ray of light as he rises. I'll tell when you get up in the morning, how much ever horrible you feel, try to see if you can get up with a smile. I know it's not always easy. Try to see, just even fake it, it's okay. Fake it as though you're getting up, and then later you can complain your conditionings. But when you get up, try to see if you can give that ray of light out. So that is Aditya. The meaning of Aditya is, as you wake up, as you rise, as you come out, you're spreading a beautiful ray of light. Why is that important? Because what you send out will come back to you in some form or shape. You are taking a sankalpa. See, if you look at this, life, day by day, everything moves based on our sankalpa. Whether we recognize it or don't, it is moving by our sankalpa. It is just that many times we are not aware of what sankalpas we make. We make those sankalpas unconsciously. We get up in a bad mood, and when somebody comes and bumps into us, we shout at that guy. But it's also that because you're in a bad mood, you're inviting more and more situations to aggravate your bad mood. You'll notice this, right? When you get out of the house in the morning with a very sulky kind of a situation, wherever you go, you'll typically find something that attracts similar conditions. It'll aggravate those conditions, right? Because we are generally not very aware of the process that is happening. But if we somehow make it a habit, that not act. I'm not saying you falsely act, right? Doesn't mean that, but you become aware and you say that this mood that I'm in is my own creation, and I want to counter it, with that awareness, because your mood will change a little later. It is only how long you want to carry it is in your hands, correct? When we get into a bad mood, we get into anger, we get into any of these unpleasant emotions, how long you want to carry it, that emotion rises. You can't control it. It rises because of a conditioning. It rises because of a mental conditionings, and we get impacted by the external stimulus. It will rise. But how long do you want to carry it is in our hands, correct? That is in our hands. So the sankalpa that you take, I may get up in a bad mood, but the sankalpa I take, no, let me smile. It is said Surya is Aditi's son. What is the story behind this? Mama, unfortunately, I don't know the story. It is this thing is Kashyapa's wife is Aditi, and she has had many children, and Surya is one of them, Surya Bhagavan. In fact, Indra is also called Aditya. Indra is also called Aditya because he's Aditi's son, right? So, in fact, Diti and Aditi, they were two wives of Kashyapa, I think, Kashyapa Rishi. And Diti, or the progeny, are called Daityas, and Aditi are Adityas. So there are Dwadasha Adityas. There are 12 Adityas, actually, if you look at it. In fact, in the 33 Muppati Moonu Kodi, I was talking to Kalpaka last week, the 33 Koti deities, there are 12 Adityas, 11 Rudras, 12 Adityas. So the 12 Adityas are all sons of Aditi. So when we get up, we choose. So what we let out of ourselves. So Adityaya Namaha is what you decide to let out of yourself is your choice, your sankalpa. So like beautifully Surya Bhagavan lets out the ray as he rises. He is called as Adityaya Namaha. And also because he is the son of Aditi. And also there's another beautiful meaning that one of the commentators have given is Adite means earth. Adite means earth, and he is Aditya, he is the lord of the earth. Because he governs the earth, he rules, he is the Isha of the earth in a way, right? Because earth actually emanates from him, right? Even if you go back to physics, the whole solar system was a ball of sun, ball of light, and then earth and other planets emanated from it. It came out of balls of fire and then it became a planet. Adityaya Namaha. Savitre Namaha. So Savitre is like the mother. So Savitri is the nature of mother. So he is also as mother. Pushan, he is also Pushan, the one who nourishes, and is also the cause of Srishti. So he is Savita, Aditya, Savita, and Surya. Surya, that word we know very commonly, he is known as Surya Bhagavan, right? And one of the meanings of Surya is one who motivates us to do the right action, the right karma, right? And if you end up doing the wrong karma, we can also blame it to him because you are the one motivating me. But the important thing is that he is the one who motivates and instigates us to do action. But if we are aware, the possibilities of doing right action is much greater because as we have always seen, right and wrong is not so much in the action. Right and wrong is in the intention, right? What is the intention that drives us to do that action is important, right? We've seen in Bhagavad Gita, we see that doing the war as an action is not wrong. Bhagavan is telling Krishna Bhagavan is telling Arjuna, doing the action is not the thing. With what attitude you are doing the action is important. So what we are telling Surya Bhagavan is, may that instigation of motivation that I carry be pure, be chaste, be the right intention, right? Be it hitotkari, which means be it beneficial to myself and others. See, always you should think that beneficial to myself and others. And by myself being first, I'm not saying we are selfish. We're saying in the ultimate viewing of things, if it's beneficial for you in the right way, with the right understanding, then it will be beneficial for others. What happens is we see benefit in a very, very constrained manner because our benefit is always derived from our the indriyas. If we satisfy the indriyas, then I'm benefited. That is how we see it, right? But we're saying what is truly beneficial for us, if we understand, then we will always take those steps that's truly beneficial for us in the long run, in the true understanding, in the true way of existing of things. Right now, whenever I see there is something, when we say, and this is the trick that we have in the spiritual path, or whenever we are going on the spiritual seeking, there is always this confusion between am I doing it for myself? Because everybody is saying you should be selfless. At the end of the day, you should be selfless, you should be giving, you should do things for others and all that. The important thing is, if you lose yourself and do for others, you are neither doing good for them, nor are you doing good for yourself. Important thing is, we first fix ourselves. We fix ourselves in the way, become more aware. We think about what is truly beneficial for us. Not short term, not immediate desires, aspirations, needs, likes, dislikes, not based on that. based on something that is sustainable, that is with a certain, see, which is where as we grow, we know this difference, right? As a child, if my immediate need is an ice cream and that need has to be satisfied, that becomes my, if I'm somehow figuring out a way to get that ice cream, I say that is my, so I benefiting my own desire, correct? But as you grow older, you know it is not necessarily the case. If I have to somehow, you think, what do you think? Okay, right now, how is my condition, my health condition? As a child, you don't think about these things. You think, because I feel like wanting to have an ice cream, I should have an ice cream, so I'm benefiting myself by taking an ice cream. When you grow older, you think, I have had enough sweets for the day. Should I have an ice cream now? Should I not? Tonda katindrukku, weather is like this. If I have it now, will I be able to, will I not get a sore throat? All of these things we think. As you grow much older, and if we unfortunately happen to have diabetes, we think about, oh, will my sugar levels shoot up if I take ice cream now? So we do all of these analysis, right? Which means you are now starting to think what is really beneficial for you. Is the same ice cream, the desire is the same, but now you're starting to ponder what is really beneficial for me. In the same way, as we grow or mature in our understanding, we will start thinking what is really beneficial for me, right? So Suryaha is one who's instigating this, us to perform an action, but we are wanting to go behind the action and help him guide us for the right motivation. What am I motivated to do this action for? What motivates me to do this action? So then we are thinking, is it beneficial for me in the long run? Which means, does it elevate me? And everything doesn't have to necessarily, we don't have to tag it as spiritual, right? Does it make me a better person? Does it elevate me? Does it make me feel good in my own eyes? Am I able to face myself in my own eyes and I feel right about it? So these are the benefits. So you instigate, get motivated so that you're benefited for yourself and also you benefit others. Because when you do the right things for yourself, you will see naturally you will spill out. The spilling over. The problem is we always in this world, we even the good work that we want to do, we always start from the outside. We always start from the outside. The same problem, right? Anything that you start from the outside and try to come inwards, by the time you reach inwards, you will be drained, exhausted, because the outside it's completely distorted what really you're wanting to do. Because when you're doing for the outside, somebody will praise you, somebody will throw stones at you, somebody may like it, somebody may not like it, somebody will say, நீ இவ்வளவு கஷ்டப்பட்டு பண்ண, ஆனா இப்படி பண்ணிருக்கலாமே, நான் பண்ணது பாரு, எப்படி பண்ணா என்ன அப்படின்னு நம்ம argue பண்ணுவோம். You'll be stuck in all of this. Because why? Because we are starting from the outside. We are wanting to please the outside, and then if we find time, we will come inside. முடிஞ்சது. Lives are lost just doing that. So which is why the motivation to benefit yourself is most important. And then as an aspect, you will spill. See, I always believe, நம்மளோட கப் full ஆக்கினோம்னா whatever spills out, மாடு அப்படிதானே பண்றது. How does a cow give milk? It first gives to its calf. Whatever spills over comes to the rest. In the same way, we fill ourselves properly. We fill ourselves in a way that we don't seek these validations and appreciations and all of that outside. If we fill ourselves inside, when it spills out, naturally it will be of benefit to others. Correct? So that benefit should become a natural process of us spilling out. Not we actively going out, எனக்கு அவனை ஹெல்ப் பண்ணணும், எனக்கு வேண்டாமேப்பா அப்படிமா. இல்ல, நான் இன்னைக்கு முடிவு பண்ணிட்டேன், உனக்கு ஹெல்ப் பண்ணியே ஆகணும். So we get stuck in that, right? So that is Surya.
ஹெல்ப்பே வந்து ஹெல்ப் பண்ணாம இருந்தாலே அது ஹெல்ப்பா இருக்கும்.
ஆமா,
வடிவேலு அதுல சொல்லும், எதுவுமே பண்ண வேண்டாம், அதுவே பெரிய ஹெல்ப்.
ஆமா.
டாக்டரோட ஸ்கூல்ல ஒரு வாட்டி 8th 9th படிக்கிறச்ச பிரின்சிபல் வந்து எல்லா பேரண்ட்ஸ் கட்டாயம் வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் மீட்டிங் ஃபார் யுவர் சில்ட்ரன், உங்கள் எஜுகேஷனுக்கு ப்ளீஸ் கம் அப்படின்ட்டு எல்லா பேரண்ட்ஸும் வந்தோம். எல்லாம் உட்காந்ததுக்கப்புறம் இந்த மாதிரி உங்களோட குழந்தைகளோட ஃபியூச்சரை பற்றி பேச போகிறோம், எஜுகேஷனை பற்றி பேச போகிறோம், ரொம்ப இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் பாயிண்ட்டு அப்படின்னா எல்லாரும் என்ன பண்ணணும்னு சொல்லுங்க. நீங்கள் தயவுசெய்து யாரும் ஒன்றும் பண்ணாமல் இருக்க போகிறோம் அப்படின்னாரு. நாங்கள் எஜுகேஷன் நாங்கள் பார்த்துக்கிறோம், நீங்கள் ஒன்றும் பண்ணாமல் இருக்க போகிறோம் அப்படின்ட்டு.
இதுக்கு ஒரு பேரண்ட் டீச்சர்ஸ் மீட் கூப்பிட்டு சூப்பர். Lovely. That is true. Many a times we think we are wanting to be helpful and beneficial. We end up, because that's the reason is because we are wanting to enforce ourselves on the other. So that is a situation. Very nice example, Mama. Khagaya Namaha. One who is journeying the Akasha. Kham அப்படிங்கிற வார்த்தைக்கு space. It means space. Kham means space. So Akasha is, if you look at Akasha is one of the elements which is available everywhere, space. But when you go deeper inside, if you in the journey of going inwards, there is always something called as Hridaya Akasha, or called as Dahara Akasha. There are terms to indicate the Akasha or the space which is inside. So it is also known as Hridaya Kuhara Guham nu solluvar. The Gufa or the Hridaya, the cave of the heart, is Akasha. What is there in the cave of the heart is Akasha. And this Akasha is a very potent Akasha. Why Akasha is used as a reference point here? Because how can you point at Akasha? Is there a way to point at Akasha and say that this is Akasha? No, it is everywhere. Akasha, is Akasha somewhere and not someplace, not somewhere else? No. Akasha is there everywhere. Objects are intervening in Akasha. The objects come into existence in Akasha and the objects go out of existence in Akasha. But what is remaining is Akasha, space. So how things come into existence in space and go out of existence in space? Space remains. Space.
Like that Chidambara Rahasyam, right?
Ama, correct. Chidambara Rahasyam essentially is talking about this truth, that space is ever existent. Everything else comes and goes in space. In the same way, the I is ever existent. Everything comes and goes in the I. Forms come and go. Names come and go. Emotions come and go. Thoughts come and go. Feelings come and go. Universes come and go. How many dreams we have? We create so many universes. Universes come and go. Lokas. Satya Loka, from the Patala Loka to Brahma Loka, all the Lokas come and go. But I, as that space, ever remain. And here there are two meanings. One is Khagaya Namaha, is Surya is the one traveling in space. Because you're seeing it from the perspective of Bhuloka. From Bhuloka, you see Surya Bhagavan is traveling in space. But actually what is happening? Surya Bhagavan is not traveling anywhere. He is there. We are traveling in space. So in the same way, the Atma, consciousness that we are, is always present. We keep moving. See, imagine this body is like a pot. I mean, Adi Shankara's famous example and all the Upanishadic famous example is the pot. This is a pot. So if I'm carrying a pot, empty pot, I'm carrying a pot around, there is space inside the pot, there is space outside the pot. So wherever I'm moving, there is space. So in the same way, consciousness, and what we are talking about, Atma or consciousness, is sentient space, conscious space, the space that has awareness. Jnanam, Jna, the Shabda Jna means Jnanam means awareness, the knowing. It knows that it exists. So I am filled with that inside, I'm filled with that outside, and this thing is moving around. So when you say I'm moving around in space, this body is moving. The Atma, that which consciousness that is not moving anywhere. Which is why this thing struck me very hard. Ramana and Aniki on Bhagavad Gita also I made a mention of this, and it's worth making a mention again. When Ramana Bhagavan was about to leave his body and go, 14th April 1950, if I'm not wrong, just a few days back before that, people gathered around him and they knew he is about to leave the body because it had become very, very weak. And he had told people he will leave in a few days. And then people gathered around him and they were crying and then weeping. People who were very close to him were weeping. So then he asked, why are you weeping? Why are you crying? He said, Bhagavane, you're going. You're leaving us and going. So imagine his state was so, his perception of the reality was so clear that even during that time, he did not for a moment associate himself with the body. So the response he gave was, why are you crying? Idu. So he says, Idu enga pogum, idu enga poga mudiyum. He says, Idu enga pogum, idu enga poga mudiyum. Which means, this that is there here, that you're seeing as this presence, where can this go? Where will it go and where can this go? It's like saying, where can space go? Space can't go anywhere. Space, you're taking an example of room, right? The other day you said, there is space on one corner of the room, there's space in the other corner of the room. But space is there, that's it. You're not saying that, oh, space is moved from that left corner to the right corner. No, space is everywhere. So imagine the perception, the heightened perception of Ramana Maharshi, that when you visualize or when you recognize that what you are really is this Hridaya Akasha. You're this empty space that is there. And this body is just some entity that's moving in that space. And I am not identified with this body, like I'm not identified with your body. Am I identified with your body? Am I identified with somebody other's body? I am not. In the same way, I'm not identified with this body. I'm just moving around. This thing seems to come along. This thing seems to come along. So
நான் என்ன புரிஞ்சுக்கணும்னா, பாட் உள்ள ஸ்பேஸ் இருக்கு, பாட்டு வெளியில ஸ்பேஸ் இருக்கு. இந்த பாட் எடுத்து போற பாட உடைஞ்சிட்டாலும் ஸ்பேஸ் ஒண்ணா போகுது. ஸ்பேஸ் இது ஸ்பேஸ் அப்படியே தான் இருக்கு.
Absolutely.
இந்த பாட்
correct. So beautiful, Adeda. So how did the pot come into being? It came into being in space. When the potter made this thing, the pot was made in space, and the space was inside the pot. So the whole creation of the pot was happening in space itself. And when the pot breaks, the same space remains. So there's absolutely no suddenly, so which is why they say realization is not suddenly you become some Superman or super you, nothing, you just dissolve. Right? So that is Kalpaka is saying on a lighter note, even our keypads have given most important to space bar. That is the biggest key. Space. Yeah, so that way space, so we're saying Khagaya Namaha. So although we are saying he is journeying through Akasha, space and all of that, because that is how we perceive Surya Bhagavan going through, but essentially it is that he is that essence of space. In reality, Surya Bhagavan doesn't move. He doesn't go anywhere. He is as it is. Everything else moves. Everything else moves. Right? So in that way, in fact, I very vividly remember this interesting switch of experience that I had. Kalyanam, after my marriage, we have this another evening. What do we do? Reception. Valayadal. There is a function in the evening after the marriage in the morning. Evening there is a function. People come together. Nalangu. Nalangu. So that Nalangu, this thing event was there, and generally it was a busy day. So wife and I, we don't. I mean, you don't meet right like that. So she's busy doing her own things, and I'm busy doing my own things in terms of the rituals and all of that. After the marriage, we went to our rooms. We were resting. Generally very exhausted, right? Because marriage, you get up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and all of that. It's very exhausted. And then they call back in the evening. Evening, we were generally casually dressed and we came out. We're doing this Nalangu thing and all. And during the whole Nalangu that happened, and then we were moving about, I realized that someone else is walking along with me. It struck me for the first time that because till then you don't have this experience. You're as a bachelor, as this thing, you're just living your life. You're doing your things. Of course, you're with family, with parents, with parents and your siblings and all that. But you don't have somebody always coming along with you. So this was like, I told her, I was feeling very awkward that because she would come wherever I'm going, she would come, right? So. So I found that a little strange. And then people told me, you'll have to get used to it. So I'm fortunate she comes along wherever. But I'm saying the feeling is that that's not my body and something is coming along with me. So I'm saying if you can extend it to this body also, I'm being here and this is just coming along. Wherever I'm moving, this is coming along. And that association liberates us. That association liberates us. Sri Vidyaji, you're saying if the space is filled up with things, then there is no space, is what we say, right, Guruji? There is no space. See, if you go down into the most atomic level, right? See, there is space that we perceive because there is a certain dimension that we are able to perceive. We cannot perceive the most atomic nature of things. We need an electron microscope to see what is happening. So if you go down to an atom, you know how an atom is constructed, those who have studied physics. The nucleus is like the small piece, and there is a lot of space from the nucleus to the electron. And the electron is moving around the nucleus, and that's an atom. So what is an atom comprised of is largely space. There is very little nucleus and there are much smaller electrons that are going around, and this is the construct of an atom. If you see the proportion of the nucleus to the electron and nucleus to the atom, space is the major contributor. So at every level, there is a lot of space that is there. And objects exist in space. That is what we are trying to say, right? So, Sri Vidya, did I respond to that question? So when you say there is no space, I'm not sure what we are, what are you trying to say?
Yeah, we need to, I think, differentiate. Space is just like a canvas, where even I put one dot, it is not going to fill up the whole space. The one dot, I can still keep on putting dots. Imagine I'm just putting a dot. You cannot see that dot. I can still fill up the whole space. I will never be able to fill it up.
Correct.
Space. இதெல்லாம் மேட்டர் தான், எல்லாமே மேட்டர் தான் போறோம். அந்த மேட்டர் தான் தவிர மேட்டர் இல்லாம இருக்கிறத வந்து பார்க்கணும். Space.
That is one. Correct. So even if, so what you're saying is, suppose like a canvas, you paint the whole canvas, a white canvas, you paint it black. And suppose white is the space and you have now painted with objects which is black, then you're saying there is no space. But what we are trying to say is the substratum of that black paint is the white space. Correct, Srividya ji?
Okay.
What we are saying, sorry?
புரிஞ்ச மாதிரியும் இருக்கு புரியாத மாதிரியும்
Which is right. Yena, you're absolutely right in expressing that, because it is the subtlest of all elements. And understanding the subtle using the gross mind is difficult. It's definitely difficult to understand the subtle. The more subtle we go, the more we have to become perceptive, not logical. Logical only till some point you can be logical. Logical is largely in the physical realm. When we become more and more subtler and trying to understand, we have to become a little more perceptive. So one suggestion is, what you could do is, we try to experience space. If you have the habit of meditation, you can sit down and just close your eyes and experience when you start releasing your identity of the body, the mind, that you bring your attention to that awareness that you are observing the body, you are observing your mind, you are observing your feelings, you are observing things around you. When you slowly clear that identification, you will slowly realize that you have become light and you are becoming filled with space. Now, you're not getting filled with space, you are realizing the existence of space.
It's also like saying we are becoming more inclusive, right? When you're expanding your space.
Correct. Becoming more inclusive in terms of not differentiating this versus that. So you're not saying this is I and that is that. No, you're dissolving yourself. By means of dissolving, you are just becoming homogeneous with everything. You're not drawing boundaries anymore. See, the moment right now you have boundaries of the physical self, you have boundaries with the mind, you have boundaries with the energies, you have boundaries with the feelings and thoughts, my thought, your thought. If you dissolve, I'm just observing it, I'm observing. So my thought is there, his thought is there, his thought is there, thoughts are there. There are thoughts, there are feelings. If you start going a little more abstract, you will just feel that when you identify yourself, or you make yourself pull yourself back from those identities, you will suddenly see you're empty. You'll suddenly feel, and this is a process of meditation also, you'll suddenly feel that you're empty, because all you have done is you've dropped off of all identity, and what you are is there, you're just sitting there empty. And emptiness is space. But there is a beautiful jyotihi in that emptiness, but we're not getting there. Right now, we're saying when you drop everything, all you'll experience is that emptiness. And that emptiness is space. Now, where was the space before? Before doing that meditation, where was the space? It was there. You've just become aware of that space now. So, which is why space is not something that you can point out, which is why it is an important thing to understand. We have exceeded a lot now, sorry. But space is not something that we can point at. Space is something that has to be, when you remove things, what remains is space. When you remove, only then you will know that there is space. And that is why space is always revealed by the non-existence of things. When there are things, room full of sama irundaduna, there are things all in the full with, the house is filled with things, you will never experience space. Only when you remove all the things, did space suddenly appear there? No.
Visual. நம்ம வந்து விஷுவலா பார்க்கறதுனால வந்து லைக் இந்த பிசிக்கல் ரம் வாட் யூ செட், நம்ம பிசிக்கல் ரம்ல பார்க்கும்போது ஸ்பேஸ் இல்லாத மாதிரி இருக்கும். பட் as you said, when you think, when you go into a subtler level,
Correct.
without the material or physical aspect of it, you will realize space. நம்ம ஒரு ஐ திங்க் நீங்க கூட ஒரு வீடியோ பார்த்துருப்பீங்க, எனக்கு வந்து ரொம்ப பிடிக்கும். லைக் இஃப் யூ see earth very closely, or probably where I'm sitting, if I see this room is bigger, is so big, it is holding me and so many people. But when you zoom out, when you Google Map zoom out, Coimbatore room ஆயிடும். அந்த கோயம்புத்தூர்ல இவ்வளவு பேர் அந்த ஒரு இவ்வளவு ரூம் இருக்கும், இவ்வளவு வீடு இருக்கும், அது உள்ள இருக்கும். Zoom out further, the
ஆமா.
India map is so small. Again zoom out, the earth itself is a dot.
Dot.
And sun is a big ball. Zoom
Correct.
out further, the galaxy.
The galaxy.
Solar system itself is small.
Correct.
What are those space that we talk about? But still,
Correct.
you see, the space is cosmos is so big,
Correct.
so many galaxies, and still it is able to hold it. So on the physical, you'll see that the space is Brahmandam.
ஆமா.
It's unimaginable. No
Correct.
limit at all.
ஆமா. Absolutely. That's a beautiful analogy. True. Because space is ever existing. Whether there are objects there or not, space is. When objects come, we suddenly feel the lack of space. But then when the object goes out, what space didn't get created there, space was there. The object moved and revealed, space was revealed. That's why it's called as revelation. It is revealed. So in the same way, like Mama is saying, when we go closer and closer, we probably see more and more space. When we go back, you further figure out that the same thing is now contained in a much smaller space, and there is even more space that is still available, right? So it's very nice. It's a beautiful, I think it's worth, I know we extended 15 minutes, but it was worth exercise. And I think we should spend time to meditate upon these thoughts. We take our time to sit and meditate and try to and this whole understanding, as I said, it's a subtle understanding that cannot be imparted. It has to be perceived. It has to be perceived and perceived by the individual in a subtle state of mind. The gross state of mind cannot perceive this. In a subtle state, how do you go? You go into meditation, you go into silence, you go within yourself, you go in isolation and just be. When you are just with yourself, you will suddenly drop all the thoughts. Of course, usually when we are with ourselves, we'll only get a lot of worries, thoughts, in the next no. I'm saying drop all that, just as an exercise. Drop all that and just perceive what's happening there. All you will see. Anama?
Yeah, பண்ணியாச்சு. மத்த வாங்கிட்டு அது வந்துரும்ல?
Oh. Sorry. So Kalpaka has given a signal. Poro nirthanga appadi.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So I think that's important. Kalpaka has pressed the space bar. The video எல்லாம் play பண்றச்சே space bar தட்டினா pause ஆயிடும். So
இல்ல இங்க இந்த அமாவாசைனால this.
okay, good. சரி. We will pause here for now. Thank you. Om kayena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrite svabhavat karomi yatyat sakalam parasmai narayanaayeti samarpayami sadashivayeti samarpayami jagadambikayeti samarpayami sadgurunathayeti samarpayami. Hari Om tat satgurubhyo namaha. Deva.